Good evening, everybody, and a very, very special edition of HHV The Judge. It is Thursday evening. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's going on? What are they up to? You're probably not going mad like that. You're probably just saying, oh, it's on Thursday, is it? Yeah, it is. I'm afraid tomorrow well, I'm not afraid. I'm pleased to say I'm at Newmarket with the old NOOO Syndicate, and then I'm going to the races in the afternoon. So I ain't going to be back till late. So we're doing this tonight. And plus, we've already got our selection. And we think it might be worth getting on tonight on Thursday. So, firstly, may I introduce my new co-owner of No More. It's the Judge, a member of the syndicate. Welcome, mate. Hope you're well.
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you very much. A lot better than I have been. So definitely back to full health. Nothing a couple of winners won't make me feel better with.
Exactly. I've obviously been spending too much time with Tomo, as I asked you, are you well?
That's right.
But there you go. So, the 2,000 guineas, it is at 3:40 on Newmarket. On Saturday at Newmarket, we are at the Rolling Mile. It's the first classic of the season. Over a mile for 3-year-old colts. Of course, the girls get their try on Sunday in the 1,000 guineas, but this is the first classic of the season, and it looks, Judge, as though it's going to be run on very quick ground. This race can often, obviously coming so early in the year, be run on soft or good, but not that often on ground as quick as this. As it stands now, 15 runners go to post, and that's important because many of the firms are going for places. So it's got the look of a big field, almost handicap in terms of the betting. And we have now an odds-on favourite, which presents certain problems for punters. And that is, as I'm going to ask at the end, are you a layer or a player at odds-on in a classic? And I've got a funny feeling that neither of us will be playing. So, right, Judge, let's go through them. What I want to do, because it's a special, we're only doing one race, we're going to actually mention every horse in the race.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I will ask you for your selection, and I will give my selection for the first classic of the season. So let's do it in reverse order, as they say in the Eurovision Song Contest. Ignore me, I'm rambling. And we're going to start with Neil Pye. Yeah, that's I've had Neil winners in the last couple of weeks. On this, obviously, I've had loads in general. Number 15, The Wizard of Eye. Now, this is available at 150 to 1. What's interesting here is it's ridden by John Egan. Now, I'm not being rude to John Egan, but how old is this man? Now, you know, I'm still a very young man, Judge, but I've been betting for a long time. And I thought he looked quite old when I first started going racing. No offense. So, John Egan, I honestly think it's absolutely fantastic that he's still riding in classics. It could have a competition. How old is John Egan? But there will be no cash prize. But I think the answer will be very old. So, Wizard of Eye, let's hope it gives him a good spin. Can we put a line through it, Judge? Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Wizard of Eye. Hope you have a great day out, owners and stuff. Yeah. And why shouldn't they have a go in the classic? I said, for all these big outsiders, why shouldn't you have a go?
Absolutely.
Number 14 is Takrid Bay. Now, I'm going to just reverse a little bit here. This horse is available at 100 to 1 in a place. Sean Levy takes the ride. It won on debut last year and went in a lot of notebooks, this horse. Now, of course, those notebooks probably didn't say, get on for the guineas now, but this ain't useless. This is all right. Came out again recently and was second. Now I'm going to say this, Judge, there'll be worse 100 to 1 pokes than Takrid Bay this year. That isn't just I'm saying, you know, I think it's going to, but with 4 places, could he sneak fourth and give you a 20 to 1 winner? What do you think, Judge?
If anyone's going to win with an outsider in the Guineas, it's definitely Hannon, because Richard Hannon, his dad had plenty of them previous, didn't he?
Exactly.
I've got to be honest, I don't really fancy him too much, but I think hundreds is probably a bit too big, but he won't get any of my money in the politest possible way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that many are going 50s, which I probably wouldn't
Probably
But
about the price.
you know, look, everything has a price. 100 to 1, I think it's too big. So, you know, if you're looking for an outside, I wouldn't put you off that. We now come to top of the shop, Berkshire Shadow. Now, I love Berkshire. Obviously, my accent wouldn't betray me as being from here originally, but it is my county of where I've settled. So I'll be one of those naff people that will cheer it on just because of the daft name. That might be as far as I go. You can get 80 to 1. His last 2 runs as a 2-year-old saw him finish 7th and 4th, albeit at the top table, Judge. He's got a lot to do to trouble the leaders in the betting, I would suggest. What say you?
Well, he's best priced 80 to 1. I've got to be honest, I'd rather this than the last one. At least he's finished within sort of 3 or 4 lengths of Luxembourg of Native Trail, hasn't he? Well, certainly Native Trail he's finished within 3 or 4 lengths of. And if he was to finish within 3 or 4 lengths of Native Trail, you know, I don't necessarily fancy him for win purposes, but he is definitely one of them ones that could outrun his odds. I have noticed Andrew Baldwin's horses have needed the run quite a bit on the turf this season, but there's worse outsiders for sure. This is a funny one.
Yeah, I also think that he's a horse who had 5 runs at 2.
Yeah, he's probably a little bit more exposed in some.
Yeah. I like to see in these sort of races I call it 1, 2, or 3 put away. Yeah. You know, where a trainer's gone, this is all well and good, but this is a 3-year-old. I wonder if the very, very brilliant Andrew Baldwin squeezed as much as he could out of Berkshire Shadow last year. We shall see. Now we come to a horse.
I liked quite a few times.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Right, we now come to a horse that is being tipped up by some shrewd judges. Not, of course, not the judge, but shrewd judges, and that's number 8, Lusail, ridden by Pat Dobbs, was second 12 days ago, around the 50 to 1 mark. I can see some 66s. He's a horse who won his first 3 and created quite a reputation before that. I don't think he flopped last time, 2-year-old. He was well beat. Slightly disappointing that he didn't win on comeback, but the word from the yard was that they felt he would come on for this. But my question is, can he come on enough? So what do you think about Lusail, number 8?
I think he's the other Hannon horse, isn't he?
Yeah, sorry, the Hannon horse.
Yeah, he's the other Hannon horse. Obviously, other than the Richard Hannon's having the senior having a good run in the right record in the race, I don't think this horse is going to get the trip, in my opinion. It was a 6 furlong horse last year. It ran okay over 7, but then to go back up to a mile, I don't think he's good enough. But we shall see. It's not for me.
He could well become a horse who is dropped. You're right.
Yes.
And maybe he's
targeted Commonwealth Cup or something like that.
He's like Commonwealth Cup, July Cup season. He's a very, very, very fast horse. Like you, there's got to be a doubt of him getting up the hill, hasn't there?
Yeah.
We then come to a horse who did win last time. Has already run twice this season. There won't be many 3-year-olds. Well, there'll only be 3-year-olds, obviously, because 23-year-olds can run in it. But there won't be many horses who, if you had a 4-year-old winner, he should be disqualified, really. There won't be many horses who win a Guineas, Judge, on their 3rd run of the season. But that's what Boundless Ocean is attempting to do. You've got to respect anything that Mr. Manning turns up riding. He won well last time. I don't think it was a great race in Ireland. To be honest, I prefer the 80 to 1, 66 to 1 shots to this 33 to 1 Boundless Ocean. Obviously, he's got a fitness advantage over many. Not for me, Judge. Not for me.
Other than the fact he's trained by the brilliant Jim Bolger and ridden by the brilliant Kevin Manning, I think he's got the most to find actually on the figures in the field. If I'm really honest, I think he's the price because of connections, but he's not for me. If I'm honest, so.
No, I'd be very, very surprised. And without being rude to Connections or the horse, I would be very disappointed if Boundless Ocean was good enough to place in a classic. A horse who certainly has been very, very highly touted, and is ridden by, I think, the one of the most underrated jockeys there is, Jason Hart, and that is Royal Patronage, a horse who was second on debut and then won his next 3 and was really starting to be talked about as a serious contender for this race. He then really blew it on his last 2-year-old start and was 8th. And I just can't get that bad run out of my head. Royal Patronage. Again, do we look at the 3 wins? Is he one of those horses, if he hadn't run it, say he'd been injured and he'd missed his last engagement, he'd have been coming here on the back of 3 impressive wins, he'd probably be 12-1, and we would be saying he's a major contender. But I cannot get that flop out of my head, Judge.
Right, well, it's very interesting because he's one of my outsiders I do like. I'll tell you why. He's got course form. He actually beat Caribbeus, I think went hundreds on that day, but at least he actually battled back past him. Obviously, he's coming here fresh. And if you actually look at the run in what was the race of Futurity now, isn't it? Was the Racing Post Trophy behind Luxembourg. He got struck into. So he's got a real reason for not performing. And I think 30-1, like you just said, if he come here on the back without that run, I think he's more likely to be a 16-1 chance than he is a 33-1 chance, in my opinion. So normally, he would be an outsider. I will definitely have a little bit on with the extra places.
Yeah. You know, I always say forgive any horse one bad run, and if there were extenuating circumstances, then Royal Patronage certainly was a horse who, in sort of early autumn, was being really tipped up.
The win in the Acomb, that was a really good race when he won at York. I think the next few behind him all come out and run well after that.
Yeah.
So you know, so there's worse outsiders, like I say.
Yeah. So Royal Patronage giving a little positive there. We then come to the ride for the head waiter, the man who must be considered the most Marmite jockey in the weighing room. Some love him, but he does get some stick, and that's, of course, Jamie Spencer. However, on straight tracks at a mile, you want a stat, the winning most value jockey. If you chuck in this course, you can chuck in Ascot. It's Spencer. Now, it could well be that he bides his time, of course. He waits for those races where there's a speed burn up, and he picks up the pieces better than anyone. And when he gets it right, he really does get it right. But, of course, it doesn't always go to plan. And off a slow pace, you can often see him miles back. And that's when all the moaning and groaning starts. And I should know because it's usually me doing it. But Light Infantry comes here unbeaten.
Yeah.
2 runs, 2 wins. Has he got the class on breeding to be winning 2,000 guineas, Judge? I'm not so sure. I'm going to put a line through this one. I really am. I think he's got too much to do to improve to win this. I'm not sure about the form of either of those wins, if I'm honest. Not he's not a good horse, but we're talking at the big table here to win classics, aren't we?
Yeah, he's quite an exciting 2-year-old, wasn't he? Both his, especially his second win was quite impressive. I'm gonna have a bit of a Ronseal moment here. I'm just gonna sit on the fence with this one. I don't dislike him. I don't necessarily think he'd be good enough to win, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. I looked in the paper in the morning, he hit the frame. That's for sure.
Yeah, and of course, if there's a speed burn up, he's likely to be the one.
He's going to be held up, which is always quite. It's quite a good thing for an each way bet. I'd rather be sort of out the back running on than being out the front and then dropping out the back of the TV on an each way bet. So.
Well, of course, the main reason you hold-up jockeys are always criticised is when they finish a close second and people say, oh, why didn't you get going early? Another 10 yards. Oh, why was you so far back? But there are those times where you pick up a place and you almost have not seen the horse already.
Yeah.
Somebody says, no, it finished 4th. It's one of them. Check and Challenge is one of the other unbeaten horses to come here. Danny Tudhope takes the ride. Now, this is one I give a little bit of a squeak, and I'll tell you why. Because not only is he unbeaten, he was only seen once at 2, and then he was put away, but he has won on reappearance. So we do have some evidence that he's trained on, at the very least. Of course, with some of these making their seasonal debut, you're really having to take that on trust. Check and Challenge, impressive type. I'd love to see Tudhope win a really biggie. I think he deserves it. Of course, he's won big races. But you know what I mean? I'd love to see him win.
Yeah, I know what you mean. A classic.
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic rider. Check and challenge. I think with 4 places, I'd definitely be having a few quid on it, about 28 to 1 on this one. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's got one thing to prove, that he can do it on turf. That is the one thing is a question. I really liked his performance last time out, and interestingly, he beat a horse there. I think it's Imperial Fire to the boarding horse, who actually finished not far behind Luxembourg, I believe, in the Futurity. So he has got a line in, and there's once again he's not. He's another one, Danny Tudhope. He rides Ascot very well, holding up jockey, you know. Yeah. And I think he'll suit this horse. And like you say, I think Johnny G half fancied him each way, apparently. I wouldn't put you off him at all.
I think as well, he's got the ability to quicken.
Yes.
Now, you're saying about the turf not proven.
Yeah, it's just a question,
breeding,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is a question. On breeding, of course, fast ground should suit this horse.
Yes.
On all sorts of his pedigree. So, yeah, if it were to be a tactical affair, I certainly think, you know, he's one of them who, as they hit the furlong and they really think, I think he could be one of them who quicken if it's a tactical affair. So I think it's a big price. We've had John Egan. We now come to David Egan's ride. It's number 6. It's Aiden. Eydon. This isn't a horse I know a great deal about. He was second on Debut B. Another one having his 3rd run. I thought he was plenty short enough at 18 to 1. I don't know what you think, Judge.
I think he's short because of how he won. He actually won. He looked like he won impressively. But what did he beat? That's what I'm going to ask you. I think, like you, I think he's a bit tight considering. He's not for me.
I cannot believe he's 8 points shorter with some bookmakers than Check and Challenge. I find that, I may be proved wrong, but with the information I've got now.
It's not running a group race yet. Well,
no, and I mean, you're about he won impressively, but horses win impressively every day, don't they, in poor field? I'm going to start backing them for 2,000 guineas.
I think he. What was it last time out? It was a listed race, wasn't it? Last time out, yeah, it was.
Yeah. But
so he's still got to step up. You know, 3 levels.
Were they horses that you would have thought would have been behind him going on to be contending in classics?
Yeah. He's not. I think he's short enough, definitely.
Yeah, I think he's short enough. Dubawi Legend with the great Tom Marquand. Another horse who's he won impressively on debut last year. He was then 3rd in a very good race. He was 2nd in a very good race. Now, the feeling was after his final run that possibly he'd had too much racing in too short a spell. Excuse me. If that's true, and again, we're in forgiving mood and we can forgive that final run, you know, he's got some form that puts him not too far behind the contenders here. And he's 25 to 1 still in a place. We know Marquand rides Newmarket well. I'm going to say, with the exception of William Buick in the last couple of years, I would say Marquand is the best rider at this track. And I'm sure that he's had a stack of winners to back that up. He's aggressive. He kicks on at the furlong pole often. He does have horses handy when he rides here. So it's got a great pilot. And if we're in forgiving mood, I think it's quite a big price, this, at 25. So I don't know what you think.
Yeah. Obviously, it won first time up very impressively. So it goes well fresh. That's a positive. Yeah. His second run, obviously, he finished behind Royal Patronage in the Aiken. And he pulled very hard that day. Yeah. And I really, because the Aiken was working out, I really fancied him each way against against the favourite in Native Trail was it the Dewhurst? I'm beginning to lose it now. I think it was the Dewhurst. I fancied it, and he pulled his way to the front, and he had everything else cooked apart from Native Trail that day, and used plenty of horse up, and he came second, and then, like you say, I'm surprised they went to America with it next time out. I got a feeling, to be honest, he's got to learn to settle better in order to get his each way money home. But there's, like I say, 25 to 1. I've seen a lot worse.
And is he another one that we could see in Commonwealth Cups and July Cups? Yeah,
definitely. He's only got 2 lengths to find with Native Trail on that run. But I think, like I say, stepping up in trip, if he pulls, if he could settle, he'll have half a chance, definitely.
Yeah, and if anyone can get him settled and not waste energy, it will be Mr. Tom Marquand. We then come to a fascinating contender, Point Lonsdale. Now, ridden by Frankie Dettori, but of course, for a yard we don't associate Frankie Dettori with. However, Judge, a classic winning combination.
Yep.
And he is a fascinating horse here. I won't give too much away about what my final selection for this race will be, but you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes when you see how glowing I am about this. I think he's an absolutely huge price at 14-1. Factor in what I thought was one of the most impressive wins of the season was his win in Ireland that came on very similar ground to this. When, I mean, the time form and the race form comments say won easily. He absolutely cantered up in a way you see very few group races won. He also won the Chesham. I think he's an exceptional horse. I think the Tory, well, you know, you don't ring him if you think you've got no chance, do you? So he's a big player for me at a big price. And of course, which is unusual, we're usually saying about these connections that they are overbet, but unusually for them, I don't feel this one is. So, Point Lonsdale, what are your thoughts?
Point Lonsdale, I'm very keen on Point Lonsdale. I'm very keen. He was odds on to beat Native Trail last year in a race, and look, I mean, we're on about forgiving one bad run. Perhaps he was slightly off form that day. Perhaps Native Trail was his best run. There's a couple of other interesting things. Obviously, Frankie's he rode Mother Earth as a second string last year to win the 1,000 guineas. I think he's ridden the St Ledger winner for O'Brien as well, I believe.
Yeah, he has.
So it's not unheard of. And they often win this race with a horse that hasn't had a run. So that's another positive. Even though normally you'd like them to have a run before the Guineas itself. I just think he's got lots of ticks in the box. And one last thing I thought was very interesting, Ryan Moore didn't commit to Luxembourg that straight away and think, oh, I'm definitely going to ride Luxembourg. It wasn't an easy decision for him to get on Luxembourg. So bearing in mind one's 5-1 and one's 14-1, I know which way I would like to swim.
And again, Coolmore have often won classics with second, third, fourth, and fifth ring.
Absolutely, yes.
So never be frightened of, oh no, then it's not their main choice. Never be frightened of that with this one.
One last thing with that, I do think it's quite interesting. The draw's quite interesting in this race. Last year you wanted to be low, but the year before you wanted to be high, and they were both on good to firm ground. And he's drawn quite near the favourite here, whereas the second, third, and fourth favourites, we're going to come to in a minute, are all drawn low. Interestingly. Yeah,
he's drawn in 11, and of course Dubawi Legend, who many people think, as we've just discussed, will be the pace horse in the race. He's drawn in 14. He may well give him a nice tow through the race. And we'll come to where the favourite's drawn in 15. Again, there could be... Do you
think they drew lots to get 15-1? Talk about worked out well.
Well, who can say? But yeah, let's have one either side, Job. We now come to a recent winner at Newbury, ridden by the great Christophe Soumillon, trained by Richard Fahey up in Malton. An unusual combo, but so far a winning one, so they've decided to stick with it. Perfect Power. He comes here as a 12-1 shot. Rumours in Malton, well, not rumours in Malton, that Fahey has made a slow start to the season. There was concerns the horse drifted, but still won, Judge. And I think there could be a lot more to come. Whether he's caught the imagination of the sort of betting public is in doubt, really, because if you'd have thought he was going to win his final two, Christophe Soumillon obviously takes the ride, win his debut, and come here, it's surprising that he's as big as 12s.
Yeah, look, he's a course winner too. I do think that race last time, is it Angel's Breath or Angel something? It went off. Pulling like a lunatic in front of
the Beckett horse. Yeah,
and that normally wants softer ground as well. But he had the perfect toe into that race and won easily. That was his first try at 7, and of course he's now going up to a mile. Will he get the trip? Will he? I don't know. I couldn't say without doubt. Oh, he won't. I don't think he'll. But like I say, bearing in mind once again we're looking at Point Lonsdale, he's definitely going to get the trip. He's definitely going to, he's got half a chance in Derby on
by Australia. He's going to absolutely relish.
Yeah. So look, I mean, the difference between those two prices. Look, he can win, but I won't be backing him. Put it that way.
We now come to the final three in the betting. We got the Godolphin 2, but firstly we've got the in the betting, and by jockey bookings, easy for me to say, we got Luxembourg. Come in Luxembourg, number 9, available at 5-1, and of course with the 50 odds these days, 5-1 is a bit tight for each way purposes for me anyway. He is unbeaten. Ryan Moore takes the ride. You can't really find many holes in his form. He's one of those Coolmore horses that gets the job done rather than startles you and makes you think, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. He's not one of those, is he? But if you keep getting the 1 after your name, that doesn't really matter. So Luxembourg, obviously I'm a huge Point Lonsdale fan, nearly 3 times the price, but Luxembourg, strong contender, Judge.
He is. I sat next to one of my colleagues when he won his second start. I thought that was impressive.
Yes.
And I said, cool, I think he'll win the Guineas. And then he was all these short quotes for the Derby. And I thought, cool, he looks a Guineas type there. And then in the futurity, like you say, he was workmanlike. He was. I don't want to knock this horse at all. I just think he's a big danger. So, and also you've got to respect connections. So, yeah.
And they will be always with this race. They want to really start their season. I know they usually get a lot.
It was their talking horse as well. You reading between the lines, it was their, the one that they really thought was their 2-year-old. That and Point Lonsdale.
Yeah, of course, Aiden with his listen, Richie, and all that. He always says that this is the best horse they've ever had. There's always one of them every year. You got to remember they are a breeding.
They've only got the 2 this year, isn't it? They normally have 4 or 5 in these races. So I think they've got 2 good contenders rather than throwing a few darts.
It could be that they don't need any darts, that they think they've got the winner between the 2. A very interesting point, that. We now come to the top 2 in the betting. And I know a lot of Newmarket bases. And you'll be surprised that many of them are on the horse I'm going to mention now and not the odds-on shot. And that is number 4, a horse I've been practicing all day and I will not be able to pronounce it. It's Rebus, available at 5-1, ridden by the Doyler. Now, James Doyle, I think it's a very important day for the Doyler because, let's be honest, when they made the announcement that they'd gone to Godolphin and it was Buick and him, he was the man at the time, the Doyler. He was the coming force in racing. And you have to say that Mr. Buick has really now become the kind of undisputed number 1. Yeah. And the Doyler is on, he's up at the other meeting and whatever. Still a great jockey. But I think he will be going all that way. Of course, he's going all out to win it. But I think he wants to make a statement that, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here and I'm still involved. Caribus, 3 runs, 2 wins and a second. You could actually argue that the second was probably his best form figure of the 3, bizarrely. So I do know a lot of Newmarket faces believe he will be the better 3-year-old of the 2. Well, we're going to find out on Saturday. He's 5-1, the other one's 10-11. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? But you can't knock the horse's form, and you have to say they have started the season in a frightening form, the boys in blue.
Oh, look, a couple of people that I speak to, on a web page, whatever, they're very sweet on this horse. They think he can't be out the frame. I'm not lukewarm. I'm a little bit more questionable because obviously it was the day. I'll tell you what the bit that put me off. It was the day he came there cruising and went past them and then didn't get the job done. I thought, so there's always that little inkling at the back. And then it was very impressive because they waited a bit longer and then they went next time. It's still a little. I've still got that in my mind. Thinking, well, something that gets beat at 101, you do start worrying a little bit. Look, he's got every chance, but there again, this is a Guineas. He should have. But
and that type of ride of putting the head on the line in front, very difficult to do on a steep uphill finish.
Yeah,
it really is. So yeah, you're right. He should have won, shouldn't he?
There again, we got like Royal Patronage is 33-1, you know, so who did beat him that day. So
he did. Yeah, he did. So yeah, mixed. I do think
he's got the right profile. He's only had 3 runs. He hasn't had many runs.
He's got the right profile. He's got the right breeding. He's from the right yard. He has a profile of an improver. He's going to be interesting. But like you, has he got when it hurts? Will he put it all in? You know, that's the question. And it's going to have to. They're going to have to go to the limits. To win this, aren't they? We come to the favourite. What can you say about Native Trail? He is odds on.
Yeah.
That's not the horse's fault. He doesn't know that. He's going to turn up and rock and roll. He remains unbeaten. I was at Newmarket when he made his reappearance. I wasn't blown away by the pure spectacle of it, but you couldn't not be impressed at the actual horse before. And he's got some presence when he walks in the paddock. He is a striking individual. He's a powerful horse. He's not just about pure speed, but he is odds on, and I think it's not a bad renewal of this race.
Oh, no.
And we'll come to whether we're lays or players, but you've got to respect him. But he is odds on, Judge. What do we think?
I mean, look, you were on about Sherlock Holmes earlier. I'm going to be sort of like Hercule Poirot. You don't have to be him to work out he's the one to beat.
Yeah.
I think looking at this race, we come to lays and plays. He will be there. Whatever beats him, will win it. That's the way I look at it, you know. But I think there'll be better even money shots in a year, in my opinion. I think that's the other way of looking at it. You know, because like you say, it's quite a deep Guineas. There's quite a lot here. We've got half a chance.
It is,
and some with more than half a chance. And
without, you know,
I know everyone's been saying. I mean, I really like Appleby, and I think he's a good track. He hasn't won that many Guineas, has he? He's not won as quite as many as Aidan O'Brien has, for example.
No, he hasn't had the length of career. But you're right. I think he's a very, 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 very good trainer. Although
only a matter of time, of course.
If you manage Real Madrid, you'd get loads of wins, wouldn't you? So it's not being hard.
Right,
but he does a pretty good, some strong cards to play with the horse.
Yes.
If you're going to bet him and he gets beat, you do your dough. There's no double bullet here, is there? There's no each way. You've got to go in. And like you, for me, if you have a sort of a liking for backing odds on, then even just this weekend, I would argue you'll get much softer races with 4 to 5, 8 to 11 shots if you want a conker's job than doing it in this race. But that isn't to say he won't win.
No, exactly. It's not an even money shot. You know, for example, I don't know what price it went off in the. I couldn't have Bob Hollinger on my mind the other day at 5. I think that's about a 5 to 4 chance. He's not like that. Has got an outstanding chance and is informed. Got everything, all the boxes.
He's ticked a hell of a lot of boxes, but the box he can't tick is the fact that there are so many other good horses in
exactly.
There. And you only need one to do him. And of course, you know, with 4 places on offer, you can make profits from this race and not beat him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you do have options, you know. I think with that in mind, and I really must stress how important to me is that the majority of firms on Oddschecker are going 4 places. That is vital because it gives you an extra shot at profit in a way that we didn't used to get in years gone by. Now, of course, then it would have been quarter the odds, so I understand that. But if you're really going to play some of these big prices, you know, something's got to be 4th.
But you could also play the without market as well, can't you? Which you didn't have years ago so much. I mean, that is another way of looking at it. You can go win only without the favourite. So it's another way of doing it. But I personally think there is value going each way 4 places with a couple of pokes at this race.
I do, definitely. I also think that if you convince Native Trail is going to be so far ahead, you can always play a few forecasts with some of the bigger price ones.
There is another alternative if you use other means. There is, you know, he's the sort of type of horse that could go bigger than his current price in running, isn't he? You know,
he could put a peg down.
But he's not like a Frankel, is he? You know, just whoosh.
No, he's not.
He's a grinder.
It's going to be in the last half.
Look like he might be beating running at some stage. and then coming on and then winning. So.
Yeah, very, very possibly. But at what we know now, he's not for me at 10 to 11. I'd be a layer, not a player. So we come to our selection. Another clue there.
Yeah.
Now, this is HHV the judge, but not this week, folks. This is HH and the judge v the bookmakers.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure many of you have guessed my selection and the judge's selection are the same horse. Now, if that ever happens, we're not going to create another one for some false competition. We're going to be true to our selves and true to you. And we are both independently. We didn't know until we sat down to record. It's going to be number 12, Point Lonsdale. I think I'm going in with a serious bet on this, Judge. I think it's all there for this horse. I think he should be single figures. And I'll make a prediction with the Frankie factor, the Coolmore factor. I think his price is wrong at the moment. I'm going to make a prediction now on Thursday night, and we'll discuss it next week. I think he will go off single figures, and it wouldn't surprise me if he virtually halved in price. So get on now and get the 14s. What do you think?
In my mind, I make him an 8 to 1 chance. So that's the sort of price I think he is. So at 14s, he is value. I think you've got lots running for you. I mean, yes, you could argue he wants to run. I can't see Aidan O'Brien bringing 2 over if he didn't think, if they weren't going to be fit and raring to go. They were working upside each other, him and Luxembourg apparently the other day. And if they both went well, he's obviously won first time out. He hasn't really got many negatives other than the fact he hasn't had a run. He goes on the going. He's definitely going to get the trip. The jockey's won the race before, So, I mean, you've got the right trainer. I just think at the end of the day, I think you're on a 14 to 1 poke. There's probably an 8 to 1 chance.
Yeah. So get on now. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you an outsider as well, and I'll ask you for one. I'm going to have a few quid. Well, I have had a few quid. I'm going to have a few more on Check and Challenge at about 28. I think he's classy type. I think he's unexposed. I think he's got a kick finish if it were to be a slow race. And, I think he could well be in the 4. So Check and Challenge is the danger for me, or some of the dangers as a value outsider.
Yeah. The value outsider, I mean, if you like, I would like to probably split a couple, or just have half on each. That'd be Royal Patronage and Berkshire Shadow, just because they're both tied up with a favourite, if you see what I mean. One's 80s and one's 33s anyway. They both tie in with good horses, got good 2-year-old form from from stables that are capable of winning these sort of types of races. I just think, I'll probably have, I don't know, sort of like not even a quarter of a point each way on both of those, and I'll have a point each way on Point Lonsdale.
So there you are, guys. The old Lonsdale. Point Lonsdale is HH and the judge on this very special Guineas show. So thank you, Judge. Now you'll be doing.
I've got one for you. Shall I belt up?
Yeah, Lonsdale belt. See that the boxing. Oh no, they've gone and turned off. Now, Judge, before you do any more ghastly Lonsdale jokes, I must ask you will be on Friday night with some more Newmarket news on your own channel?
Yes, it was I had a blinding weekend last weekend. I'm pleased to have a couple of nice prices placed on here. Pleased we had a winner. Not so good in the week, but I'll have one for us definitely.
Look out,
sort of
Judge Potty,
Friday night. We'll have one Friday night for Saturday, definitely.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, I'm at Newmarket tomorrow. As I say, Judge is now in the No More Syndicate, so do get involved if you're not. And let's have a great Guineas weekend. I'm going to be on.
All to me, have some fun, and it'd be nice if we could get a winner, but if we can have some fun, that's what it's all about.
Definitely. Yeah. Making friends, going racing, having fun. That is our mantra at s8syndicates.com. And at Holden Sources, our mantra, of course, is we are the home of big price winners. Now, if we can get the winner of the Guineas at 14 to 1, it'll be another feather in our cap. I'm going to be back on Sunday morning, very importantly, and I've got a big price selection for the 1,000 Guineas. So you're going to want to watch that. Tune in to Judge Pottage on Friday evening, and I'll see you on Sunday morning. Have a great weekend. Back some winners, Judge, and I'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Holden. horses.